Good morning, everyone. My name is Laprit Singh, and I'm a Master IELTS trainer at gandhisir.com. And today we are going to discuss MCQs in listening and the way to do them. When we talk about the MCQs in listening, we always get two type of questions. In one question, we have to find out or we have to mark only one answer, and in second type of question, we have to mark more than one, two, three, or any. Like if there is written in the question that you have to mark three answers, so you have to find all the three answers and write it down. So these are only the two types of MCQs which we get in IELTS listening. Now we will talk about the 5 tips which we will apply to find out answers for listening MCQs. So our first tip is that always look for the paragraph heading or the heading which is given above the questions, so you will get the idea that what you are going to read. For example, if there is any question, for example, say that forest excursion, so you will have that idea, okay, that we are going to the forest and the questions which are uh, like coming will be related to the forest excursion. For example, the things which you would like to carry with you, so it can be water bottle, it can be your mosquito repellent, it can be your medicines, it can be anything, bag, camera, snacks. So you will get the idea, okay, this is what I'm going to get in the questions. So this is the tip number 1. So let's move to tip number 2. So the tip number 2 is you have to read the question very carefully. You have to read each and every word and have to understand that what the question is demanding. And also you have to look for the keyword which you are going to listen in the listening. For example, if there is something like this, what are the things that you are going to take with you? So the keyword is the things that you are going to take with you whenever you are going out or you are going on any forest excursion. So this is a very, you can say, a very good method if you have what you are going to look. Okay, so this is tip number 2, to know that what information you are going to look in the listening or you are going to listen. So it becomes very easy for your mind to look for that information when you know it in advance. So this is tip number 2, that you have to read the question very carefully and also find the keyword in the question which you are going to listen in the listening. And then you have to use your mind and listen all the information and make sense. So this is tip number 2. Let's move to tip number 3. So tip number 3 is the paraphrasing. As you all know that we use paraphrasing in our writing as well as we can use it in our listening. So how can we use paraphrasing in our listening? For example, if you have the question that the things which you should carry with you on a forest excursion, so you are not going to get the same lines or the same sentence in the listening itself. So they will change it. So you should know that they have used the paraphrasing in the question. So always keep your mind or your head up for the paraphrasing. You should know that they are not going to give you very simple, or you can say very simple sentences, or the sentences which are exactly same as they are in the question. So always look for the paraphrasing they have done. So this is the tip number 3, that you are not going to get exact information, but yes, paraphrasing is there. So tip number 4 is that you should read all the possible options in advance so that you will get an idea. For example, if you have the question, the things you should bring with you while going on excursion. So in the options you have water bottle, food, snacks, mosquito repellent, and also DSLR, a camera, or you can say your study laptop. So you should always read all the options before attempting the question. So now you will have a bit idea that why would I need a laptop? So so are you getting my point now? So always read all the options so you will get the idea that this option could be the answer and this option could not be the answer. Or I'm not saying that this is going to be 100% correct, but yes, you will have an idea before the question arise, before the listening plays, that okay, this can be the answer and this cannot be the answer. But it doesn't mean that this is the answer and this is not the answer. But you will have an idea in advance. So this is the tip number 4, that always read all the options. So here is my fifth and the last tip. So sometimes what happens, they speak out all the information, but at the end they say that we don't need it. That is, the speaker backs out from the information. First they will give you the information and then they will back out. For example, we'll take the same example, that the things you should bring with you while going on excursion. So they in the option they have, for example, bags, medicine and food. Okay, a big bag. So in the listening, the speaker says that we should also carry a big bag, but we don't need it now, or we don't need it here, or we don't need it in this excursion, or you should avoid it. You can also bring the bags, but you should avoid it. So in the first line, they have clearly mentioned that we can bring bags, but in the second line, they said, or they backed out of their first statement, that we don't need it here. So always look for the information, that okay, if they mention the thing, what are they saying about the thing? Like if it, most probably you are going to heard all the things, like if medicine, food, water and everything is there in the options, most probably you are going to heard all the things in the listening itself. But what we are going to look this, that sometimes they just back out from their statements. Like they say, okay, we can do this, but we don't need this. So always look for the information they are saying after naming that particular thing, that should we need this or should we don't need this. Okay, so this is so these are the 5 tips which I hope that these will help you for getting good marks. So now let's move to the examples and we will try to learn more with an help of example. So here it says question number 36 to 40. Choose the correct letter A, B or C. Okay, so we have to choose one. So which means we are having a first type of questions, that in which we only have to pick one answer. So let's listen to the recording.
Okay, let's move on. You might ask, how do these time zones affect our lives? Well, let's start at the beginning. Everyone is brought into this world as a present hedonist. No exceptions. Our initial needs and demands, to be warm, secure, fed, and watered, all stem from the present moment. But things change when we enter formal education. We're taught to stop existing in the moment and to begin thinking about future outcomes. But
Okay. So here they says we are all present hedonists. And the our options are A, at school, B, at birth, and C, while eating and drinking. Okay, so now as you have already, some of you have already marked the answer, but we will listen it again so that you will get a clear idea that what they are saying. So I will play it once for you.
okay, let's move on. You might ask, how do these time zones affect our lives? Well, let's start at the beginning. Everyone is brought into this world as a present hedonist. No exceptions. Our initial needs and demands, to be warm, secure, fed, and watered, all stem from the present moment. But things change when we enter formal education. We're taught to stop existing in the moment and to begin thinking about future outcomes. But
So yes, you have guessed it right. What they have said that in the second line, everyone is brought into this world as a present hedonist, which means they didn't talk about at school, they didn't talk about while eating and drinking. So option B is the correct answer. So are you following me, guys, that how we get this answer? So this is our second question. American boys drop out of school at higher rate than girls because, so our keyword is American boys who drop out of school at higher rate. We have to tell the reason that why they drop out at higher rate. Who? American boys. So this is our keyword. So let's listen to the second recording and what they have to say about it.
But did you know that every 9 seconds, a child in the USA drops out of school? For boys, the rate is much higher than for girls. We could easily say, well, boys just aren't as bright as girls. But the evidence doesn't support this. A recent study states that boys in America, by the age of 21, have spent 10,000 hours playing video games. The research suggests that they'll never fit in the traditional classroom, because these boys require a situation where they have the ability to manage their own learning environment. Now,
Okay, so at first they have talked about the basic that like boys are dropping out of the school. So here on your screen you can see that our A option is they need to be in control of the way they learn. They play video games instead of doing work. They are not as intelligent as girls. So this is what we have in our options. Let's listen to the recording one more time. Then you will have a clear idea that what they are talking about.
but did you know that every 9 seconds, a child in the USA drops out of school? For boys, the rate is much higher than for girls. We could easily say, well, boys just aren't as bright as girls. But the evidence doesn't support this. A recent study states that boys in America, by the age of 21, have spent 10,000 hours playing video games. The research suggests that they'll never fit in the traditional classroom, because these boys require a situation where they have the ability to manage their own learning environment. Now,
So now I guess this is clear to everyone that what they are saying, they play video games instead of doing school work. No, this is not the answer because obviously it was linked, but this was not the reason. They are not as intelligent as girls, so no, they haven't talked about this thing in the whole listening. So our answer would be A. They need to be in control of the way they learn. So they said in the last, they said the research suggests that they will never fit in the traditional classroom because these boys require a situation where they have the ability to manage their own learning environment. They need to be in control of the way they learn. So yes, as we have already talked in the tip part, that they are going to paraphrase the answers or the listening. Clear? So same they did with this question. They paraphrased it. So let's move to the next question, that is 38th question, as you can see on your screens. So the question says present oriented children. So this is our keyword, present oriented children. So our options are do not realize present actions can have negative future effects. B option is are unable to learn lessons from the past mistakes. C option is know what could happen if they do something bad but do it anyway. So let's move to the recording.
classroom, because these boys require a situation where they have the ability to manage their own learning environment. Now, let's look at the way we do prevention education. All prevention education is aimed at a future time zone. We say, don't smoke or you'll get cancer. Get good grades or you won't get a good job. But with present-orientated kids, that just doesn't work. Although they understand the potentially negative consequences of their actions, they persist with the behavior because they're not living for the future. They're in the moment right now. We can't use logic, and it's no use reminding them of potential fallout from their decisions or previous errors of judgment.
Okay, so some of you, I guess most of you got the answer, but let's hear the recording one more time and see what they are saying about it.
Classroom. Because these boys require a situation where they have the ability to manage their own learning environment. Now, let's look at the way we do prevention education. All prevention education is aimed at a future time zone. We say, don't smoke or you'll get cancer. Get good grades or you won't get a good job. But with present-orientated kids, that just doesn't work. Although they understand the potentially negative consequences of their actions, they persist with the behavior because they're not living for the future. They're in the moment right now. We can't use logic, and it's no use reminding them of potential fallout from their decisions or previous errors of judgment.
So yes, in the question they have said present oriented children. So do not realize present action can have negative future effects. This is our first option. Our B option is are unable to learn lesson from past mistakes, and our C option is know what could happen if they do something bad but do it anyway. So let's see. Okay, so, here in the recording, they said that although they understand the potentially negative consequences of their actions, they persist with the behavior because they are not living in the future. What they have to say that although they know that their effects in the future are going to be devastated or the bad effects, but they do it anyway because they are not living in the future, they are present oriented. So yes, so our right option is option number C. Here also they have used the paraphrasing, they haven't given the answer as it is, the question as it is in the listening, so they have paraphrased it. So let's move to the next question. If Americans had an extra day per week, they would spend it. If Americans had an extra day, where would they spend it? So our A option is working harder, building relationship, sharing family meals. So these are the three options. So let's see.
Just as they're about to make a choice. Time perspectives make a big difference in how we value and use our time. When Americans are asked how busy they are, the vast majority report being busier than ever before. They admit to sacrificing their relationships, personal time, and a good night's sleep for their success. 20 years ago, 60% of Americans had sit-down dinners with their families, and now only 20% do. But when they're asked what they would do with an 8-day week, they say, oh, that'd be great. They would spend that time laboring away to achieve more. They're constantly trying to get ahead.
So, what they have said in the question, let's read the question once again. Uh, if Americans had an extra day per week, they would spend it working harder, building relationship, or sharing family meals. All in this question, they have used what I have told you in the fifth tip, that they will give the statement and after that they will step back from that statement. So they have said 20 years ago, 60% of Americans had sit down dinners with their family, and now only 20% do. So they have given one statement कि 20 years ago, 60% Americans have dinner with their family, but now the number is only 20%. But when they are asked that what would they do with an eighth day week, they said, oh, that'd be great. But when they are asked that what they do, they said it would be great. They would spend that time laboring away to achieve more. So they would spend that time laboring away, which means working harder. So they have used the tip number 5, which I've already told you, that they will give one statement and after that they will get away from that statement or they will step back. And secondly, they have used the paraphrasing. In the question, they said working harder, and here they said that that time laboring away to achieve more. Laboring away and working harder. So they have paraphrased the words. Okay, so let's just move to the last question. Understanding how people think about time can help us become more virtuous, work together better, identity, identify careless and or ambitious people. Okay.
Achieve more. They're constantly trying to get ahead, to get toward a future point of happiness. So, it's really important to be aware of how other people think about time. We tend to think, oh, that person's really irresponsible, or that guy's power hungry. But often, what we're looking at is not fundamental differences of personality, but really just different ways of thinking about time. Seeing these conflicts as differences in time perspective, rather than distinctions of character, can facilitate more effective cooperation between people and get the most out of each person's individual strengths.
So let's once again listen that what they have said. That might be helpful for you.
So, it's really important to be aware of how other people think about time. We tend to think, oh, that person's really irresponsible, or that guy's power hungry. But often, what we're looking at is not fundamental differences of personality, but really just different ways of thinking about time. Seeing these conflicts as differences in time perspective, rather than distinctions of character, can facilitate more effective cooperation between people and get the most out of each person's individual strengths.
So in question, they said that understanding how people think about time can help us become more virtuous. No, they haven't said anything about becoming more virtuous. Work together better. Yes, they have said. See, identify careless and or ambitious people. So they haven't said anything about. So in the paragraph, what they have said in the last few lines can facilitate more effective cooperation between people and get the most out of each person's individual strengths, which means that we can work together better. So also they have used here the paraphrasing, and also they have shortened the things. In the paragraph they have explained the whole thing, but in the options they have shortened the thing. Work together better, and here they said ki, can facilitate more effective cooperation between people and get the most out of each people's individual strengths. So this is what we are going to get in our exam, and this is the correct way to do the listening. Okay, so thank you everyone for being so patient, and that's all for today's lecture. Thank you.